Alright guys, you guys are welcome to this particular video. In this video, we'll be talking about tables. In our usual fashion, let's create our table file. So I'm going to create a file here. I'm going to call it table.html, and permit me to close this. I'm going to say doc, and I'm going to call this tables, right? And I'll save this, and let's start creating our tables. Now the first thing you want to learn while creating tables is know what exactly we use tables for. So just like your regular document, MS Word, and so on and so forth, we use table to actually carry or contain data's information, where you have your rows and you have your column, right? So the traditional table comprises of the rows and columns. So let's see how we can create a simple table here using HTML. So the first tag you want to use is the table tag. Now inside the table tag, we have two other tags that will actually help us to do this. We have the table row, which will create the table row for us, and we'll also have the TD, which will create the table columns for us. So I'm going to say TR here. So the TR tag enables me to create a row. So I'll do this and I'll add another TD here. So the TD tag allows me to create column. So let me just call this a name, the first column a name, and that TD inside of my row. Now if you look at the way this stuff is being structured, the TD, which are the columns, are inside the TR, which are the rows. So in other words, while creating our table, we enclose everything with the table tag, create our first row, and then ensure that all our columns is inside of our rows. So we have this one here. So let me put this and say cross, right? How do you spell cross again? C-O-U-R-S-E. all right, cross. All right, so once we have this, we have a simple table, right? So let's see how it looks like. So I will go, and in our usual fashion, I'll try to run this on the browser and say open with, and it will come on Chrome, and we're going to have it just like this. But the bad side is that you are seeing the name and the course, but you're not seeing anything that looks like table. Now this will make us to use like two attributes to the table tag instead of HTML. So the first attribute we're going to use is the border attribute. So with the border attribute, by default it is set to 0. That means no borders, but we can actually set it to 1 or even greater than 1, and we should be able to see some borders when we refresh. So now just by adding our border attribute to the table tag and making it 1, we can see like several borders enclosing that particular two columns that we have created. Now another attribute that will allow us to add is the width attribute. Now the width attribute will enable us to increase the width of that particular table. In this case, let's just say 100%, right? That means it's going to be fast stretched across the entire width, right? So this is 100% and it looks cool. So let's add another row now. So I'm going to go ahead and add another row, my second row, TR, and now remember the TD are the column. So my first TD, I'm going to say let's have Samuel. My name is Samuel. And the course I'm taking right now is what? HTML5. Alright, let's do that. So if I do this, I can actually just save this, and yeah, I have Samuel and I have HTML5 right here, and it looks cool, right? So I could still have another row, so I'll just copy this row here. So I can go on and go on and go on. So I have like a lot of stuff. So let me have Felix here. So let's assume that Felix is taking another course called CSS3. So I'm going to type CSS3 right here for Felix, and if I come back I should be able to save this. So this is like simple Felix here having CSS3. Now one more thing I want to add. Now if you take a look at the name and the course, these are the table heading, but in the way we actually created this table, it does not make it look as if name and course are actually headings, right? And that is because we use TD in the first row instead of TH, right? So in the first row, there's your TD. Instead of used to use TD because you're heading, let's use TH instead, which simply means is what? Table heading, right? So now if we use TH here, I'm just changing it to TH. Let's save it. If we use TH here, you'll see everything is going to change and it's going to look like this. Name and courses. We have Samuel and we have course, right? And it looks cool. That is us using TH. Now, table also have another, I'll call it, I don't know if I should call it vanity or semantics tag that necessarily don't do anything, but just to help us to more organize our table. And there are like 3 different tags. We have the T head, we have the T body, and we have the T foot, right? The T foot, yeah, the foot or something of that nature. So let's use them just for best practices sake. Not because of you are going to say anything different in the output, but there's something like that. So it's called the T head. So T head, something like this. All right. So we normally use the T head tag just to enclose the heading part of the table, and the other part of the table, just like how we create HTML, we create our heading and our body, so something similar. Then this other one, we call it T body, to enclose the body part of the table. So I'm going to cut this, I'm going to put it inside here, and we also have the T foot. But if I save this now and go back and refresh, sorry, let me go back to my browser, and refresh, of course nothing changes, right? So this is just for us to say, okay, this is the heading of the table, and these are the body of the table, these are all the content that the table carries. I can even repeat this to have like a third row, and let's give this one John, and let's say John is taking what? JavaScript, right? John sounds like JavaScript. John is taking JavaScript, right? And if we refresh, we can have like our third row. Now, that being said, I want to use this opportunity to also take us a kind of table whereby we can actually merge more than one cells, right? So, for example, now this table we just created, this is a simple table, and in some cases we can actually merge more than one cells, right? So let's try that out. So let's try merging more than one cell inside of our table. So I'm going to create another row. Permit me to copy this and paste it again, and just say, I'm using Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V to do the copy and pasting, just in case you're asking in your mind. So let's say this is the footer, and in this footer I want to use that particular HTML entity that we spoke about, and let's use the one that has copy 2022 blah blah, or copy, let's just write all rights reserved. Okay, something like this is not bad, and this is what we are going to have now. Let's refresh it. Now, the moment you do it like this, you could just automatically see that this particular table is scattered in a way, because now, right here, this particular column is asking for the second column, right? So in this case, we can actually merge two columns, and we can merge two columns using what we call the column span, right? So let's see. So if we say column span and we say 2, and I'm coming, let's see what we have. So you could see that those both columns have been merged, right? Just like magic. So it looks really great to me. So let's try something else. So there is this other depreciated tag that is called center, and that is why VS Code is showing me like this. They said we should stop using center tag, but let me just use it for now, just for the sake of this. And you could see that we could actually make this dot be at the center of the whole thing, which is cool, right? Which is cool because that's the copyright information, and of course it's at the center of the whole thing. And we can also make the text align center as well, something like that. So this is just like we're creating a simple table, and this ending part now, just because it's inside the body and this is not like our body of the table, so I'm going to take it away using Ctrl+X, and I'm going to create the T foot, and I'm going to paste it inside and say okay, let this particular one be inside the T foot. Nothing still changes. It's just me saying, okay, we have three parts of this table now. We have the head, let me even compress it. We have the head, we have the body, and we have the footer. So the T foot, T head, T body, T footer, all organized and all working fine. Now, another thing again I want to treat is just in the same way that we merge these two columns, we can also merge two rows, right? So let's say there is this other guy called Peter, and Peter is taking HTML and CSS courses. So let's see how we can merge that. So I will come over here, I'll create another row, right? And I will call this guy, I will say Peter. I'll say Peter here, and I'll say okay, let's say Peter is taking HTML. Let's create another one too as well, and this one now will not have any name here, but let's call this one CSS. So once I have this now, I can actually try to merge this particular row. So I'll say column, I'll say row span now. Row span is equal to 2. So let's try that out. Aha, so that's what we're talking about. So you could see now I've made Peter to have 2 rows and Peter now is taking both HTML and CSS courses, just Peter. Now let's take a look at it again. So I created 2 rows quite alright, but the second one that has HTML does not have any name in it, so that I could actually use Peter to occupy that 2 particular space, right? So with this you can merge row spans, you can merge column spans, and again don't forget you can also have table instead of table, something that looks like nested table, right? So this is like the basic understanding of table that you need for now. Then there are other ways to style table using CSS, but when we get to CSS we'll be talking about other ways to style table. And I hope you guys really enjoyed this particular video, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe guys. Don't forget, just in case you haven't subscribed yet.